Welcome to the Thrive Co podcast, exploring the inner side of success. I am your host, Nikki, and each week we will explore the mindset shifts, personal growth, and everyday tools that will help you to navigate ambition, manage stress, and build a life that actually feels good on the inside. Through solo episodes and honest guest conversations, we look at what it really takes to grow, change, and thrive in the modern world. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Thrive Co podcast. How are we all? Have we all enjoyed the Easter break? How was the long weekend for you if you're in the UK? Obviously, I'm aware this is a couple of weeks after, but I pre-recorded the last episode last Sunday just because I was in the zone, in the mood. I'd got just felt inspired, to be honest. So yeah, this one I am only doing sort of a few days before it comes out, but very aware that I haven't really caught up with you all since Easter, and I hope you've all just had a really lovely break. I was saying to somebody yesterday actually that I don't know what it is about Easter. Well, I do. It's that new beginning feeling, the spring energy, the fact that everybody's off in terms of like that, you know, that long weekend. But I wouldn't say I prefer it to Christmas, but I definitely feel better during Easter, I think, than I do over the Christmas period, because there's less pressure. There's not an expectation to buy loads of stuff. We don't have to travel everywhere. Obviously at Christmas, both of mine and my husband's families live in the Midlands, so we end up packing up the car and travelling down there for like 3 or 4 days. And it's a lot, I'm not going to lie. Like, even though we've only got the dog, it's a lot of stuff. We don't really feel that rested. Whereas this Easter weekend, actually I'll update you all, because I said, didn't I, that I was going to cancel my plans and have a weekend with Marley ahead of his surgery, which I did. And it was so nice. And yeah, if you follow me on social media on my personal account, I think I might have posted it potentially on my TikTok as well, which again is, I think, just Thrive_Co. Then you will have seen the reel that I posted of the 4 days. So we just had the best time. It was completely sober weekend. I took him to Wentworth Castle Gardens. It was so nice and sunny. We had snacks. We had little Easter gifts. I did the jet washing of the patio and put out all the garden furniture. Not that it would matter now, because it's absolutely peeing it down of rain outside as I record this. But we just had the nicest week, and I had a bath. I watched the Lamar Odom documentary on Netflix, which was truly harrowing, but a really good watch. So I recommend that. And yeah, it was just lovely. So that felt so good for my nervous system. And my husband went out with our friends and he came back at a really respectable time. We enjoyed the Monday together. So yeah, it was honestly just lovely and exactly what I needed. But then since then, a few things have happened. Nothing kind of major, but just a few things have happened. And what I wanted to talk about today was kind of what's happened and the shift that's had in me, and actually what a big effect it's had on what I'm doing about it. Because sometimes with these episodes, I think, like, am I just talking from too much personal experience? But that's the only experience that you can talk from, right? And not only that, but I do think that actually, if this stuff is happening to me, then it's surely got to be happening to other people, because I would consider myself somebody who doesn't have like massive responsibilities. Like, I don't have children. Okay, I've got my own business. I've got a house and a dog, but you know, it's a normal level of responsibility for somebody my age. I know people that have got their own businesses and like 4 kids. I know people that have got their own business and 3 kids and they're on their own. They don't have a co-parent. So for me, I would say I'm not particularly somebody who should be, and this is why I use inverted commas on this. And if this was a visual podcast, you would see what I'm doing. But it very much, like, I do should all over myself a lot. And in terms of my stress levels, there's a lot of the time when like there's nothing big going on where I feel like I should feel regulated and rested and relaxed, and I don't. So I'm sure that there's loads of other people out there that feel the same, or that do have high levels of stress due to maybe like kids, or like I know a lot of our family children have got special educational needs, or money struggles are happening for you, or you're caring for elderly parents, or your business is really struggling. So there's a lot in life that can go on that can really shift things. But actually for me over the last week, it hasn't been the big things that have happened, but it has caused quite a big shift in how I've felt. So post Easter holidays, I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling really regulated. And like I said before, I haven't been completely sober this last year. I have been dipping in and out of drinking, but I'm trying to avoid big like drinking occasions. Like I'll still go to like dinners and stuff like that because I can drive, or I can not drink because it's not centered around alcohol. But when it's like a day rave or a boozy brunch, I've been trying to avoid that because my body just does not recover for days. It's not even days, like weeks. And I know this because I recently invested in an Aura ring. So I used to have a Fitbit, and the Fitbit was great because it just did my steps and it did my sleep, but it was very basic level. Like the step counter was great. It was actually better than the Aura ring one. That's probably, if you just want in a step counter, don't bother with Aura because it's not the best. But what the Fitbit didn't do is it didn't have a very accurate breakdown of things like how long it took me to get to sleep. I felt like sometimes the accuracy of the sleep stages, like the deep sleep and the REM sleep, maybe over-egged a little bit. Some mornings I'd wake up not feeling great and it would say I'd had like this amazing sleep. It didn't have a lot of the metrics that Aura does because Aura is a health tracker, not just a like sports and steps tracker. So it has enabled me to look deeper. Now, I was a little bit worried that I was going to go a little bit obsessive with this stuff. And I think it's only natural to be like really, really curious about the things that are going on in your body. Like, for instance, when I've been poorly, it's like come up with minor symptoms and then like major symptoms of things like elevated heart rate, temperature, HRV being low, which I'll talk about in a bit. So I thought it might make me a little bit kind of over vigilant, but it actually hasn't done, but it has definitely highlighted when things affect my body. And looking at when I drink alcohol, it's honestly wild. It tanks all of my metrics. My sleep for days and days and days is terrible. My heart rate goes up. Everything just basically goes back to being like awful. So that has really helped me to not want to drink and just how I feel in myself. And I think there's probably an element of, you know, my age. I'm 41 now. So going into that kind of perimenopause period, I'm just not feeling drinking or alcohol or anything that just is going to make me feel less than like great in my health. So making that choice the other weekend was not a difficult one to us. It was not like obviously not easy to not be around friends, but it wasn't difficult. It wasn't a difficult choice for my health. And I made loads of plans that just meant that like I cancelled the dog sitter and made loads of like plans to have like nice snacks instead, and a plan of all the things that I wanted to get done and to do, even just like planning having a bath, you know. So that was really nice. But then what I've noticed since is that because I've been keeping a track of how much better my vitals have been since not drinking again, it's also made me realise when I'm not sleeping so well, or not, like if I'm waking up feeling a certain way, generally speaking, the vitals on the Aura ring, on the app will show me that something's been off. And so it is actually really good to understand like your body. I guess you could get quite obsessive about it, but fortunately I've not. It's just helped me to kind of, you know, guide and make tweaks. So Marley had his surgery on Thursday the 9th. He was getting neutered. We had him chemically castrated with an implant on the 5th of January, and we gave it a good 12 weeks to see how he was, and things were good. He was a lot calmer. Look, this is by no means medical advice for your pets. Go and do it for yourself. And we wouldn't have gone through with the full neuter without having tested how he was going to be without the hormones originally, because obviously he's had separation anxiety and he's had lots and lots of behavioural challenges that, not having hormones can cause an issue for. They can give them fear or aggression or a lack of confidence. So we did kind of try before you buy, which, yes, was more expensive, but also meant that we weren't having a procedure done to him that was non-reversible and regretting it. And then we went for the full neuter, which we felt was the best choice for us as a family, on the 9th of April. Now, I knew that there was going to be a level of post-surgery care needed, keeping him calm, having him sleep in his crate by us rather than in the other room. What I hadn't accounted for was how that was going to affect me and my sleep. And now, don't get me wrong, my husband is in this with me 50-50, but he's the sort of person that anything can be going on in his life and his sleep score is still like 90% and above. Like, he is a great sleeper. Never used to be when I met him, but since he's adjusted his sleep pattern and routine, he is an incredible sleeper. And he just isn't somebody that is vigilant or stressed. Like, it's just not me, but it's a lovely, lovely way for him to be. But like I say, that just isn't me. And I think there's also an element of, as ridiculous as it sounds, kind of that more maternal instinct. I think women, generally speaking, can be quite, like, they always say, don't they, that if you have a baby, for instance, that you listen out for your baby in the night and that you are, attuned to stuff. And I think it's similar. Like, I'm always the one that's got like one ear out if something's happened. And so when he came back from surgery, he was fine. But then the next day, bless him, he had some diarrhea. He got a really poorly belly. He had to keep going outside. And so when we put him to bed that night, and obviously the night before the surgery, I was, nervous. So I'd been getting sleep. And it's funny because when I had the Fitbit, it just used to say, oh, you had 8 hours of sleep. And I honestly thought like I was such a good sleeper. And the days when I'd wake up feeling maybe not as well rested, I think, I wonder why, because I'm such a good sleeper on getting 8 hours. And that's just not the case. I might be in bed for 8 hours, but quite often it's like just less than 7 or maybe 7 hours 15 at the most. And that's without an alarm going on. So I was like, I don't understand why I'm feeling so groggy. But obviously getting the Aura Ring, you can see the difference in the metrics and the vitals, and you can piece together the picture. So for the about probably 4 or 5 nights between him starting, by the way, he's snoring next to me, so if you can hear something, bless him. Between the night before his surgery and then like 4 or 5 nights afterwards, I was getting on average about 20 minutes of deep sleep. So I was getting an okay level of REM sleep, which is the dream state sleep, but deep sleep, it was mainly light sleep that I was getting. So I was sleeping, but it wasn't good quality sleep. And not only did it tell me that my deep sleep wasn't great, but it also told me that my heart rate was more elevated, and that my HRV, which is the milliseconds in between your heartbeats, because your heart doesn't beat completely regularly, it's has a slightly different gap of milliseconds between each beat. It's not like uniform. And a higher HRV is a really, really good sign of how your body copes with stress and recovery. And it basically a sign that, things are going well and that you're in good shape. And I'd been working on getting that up, and it had gone up really, really, quite significantly. And then the 3 or 4 nights or 4 or 5 nights that things were not good, it was dropping, and it was dropping night on night. And the reason for that was because your HRV increases and your heart rate decreases when you're in deep sleep. So I wasn't getting enough of that. And the reason I wasn't getting enough of that was because I was hypervigilant. I was worried that he was going to need to wake us up in the night, or there's been times where he's not woken us up and we've just woken up to accidents. He was in this like surgery suit. I was worried he was going to lick his wound. It was all things that were completely fixable and completely rational, you know, in terms of like I could rationalize them and knew what I would do if they happened. It wasn't disaster, but my brain was just staying alert. It was staying on a certain level of alertness through the night, which in turn was making me feel really groggy in the morning. I was napping in the afternoons. I just felt like headachy. I didn't feel myself. In fact, the one day I remember crying to my husband saying, I just don't feel like me. I feel like my body's been taken over. I feel like I'm like old. For those of you that are regular listeners to the show, or maybe you know me personally, you won't have been able to get away without hearing me talk about Simprove. Simprove is a scientifically backed, water-based probiotic drink. You drink it daily and it has been scientifically proven to help with things like bloating, IBS symptoms, pain. It was actually a dietitian friend of mine that introduced it to me last year, and I honestly wouldn't be without it now. It's helped with my energy, with my bloating, it's helped with my immune system, and also things like my skin. The list is honestly endless. Now, I have got a code for you. So if you'd like to try Simprove, you can get 50%, that's a massive 50% off your first 3 month subscription by going on to simprove.com and putting in the code Nikki50. That's NIKKI50, or clicking the link in the show notes. And so with all this information, and bearing in mind I'm not through the nervous system part of my course yet. And so like episodes like this will be minimal information or basic information until I've done the bulk of that and know more about the science. But I'm just sharing kind of what I know so far and what I did. And so in tracking that and knowing that, I was able to fix it. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still things that I probably would have done without that information. But actually understanding what was causing it, and it was the lack of deep sleep, not just sleep in general. Like being in bed longer wouldn't necessarily help. I had to get my nervous system into a state where it felt safe and where it felt regulated, so that I wasn't super hyper vigilant in the night and I was able to get into that deep sleep state. And without the metrics, without knowing that that was what I was lacking in, I might not necessarily have done the same things. So the things that I did do were very, very personal to me. And these things might not be the same for you. You will know yourself what makes you feel regulated. And don't get this twisted. This isn't just about resting. I rested for a full day on the Saturday after he'd had his surgery on the Thursday, and I still felt like utter shit come the evening. I'd still got the headache. I drank loads of water, thought it was dehydration. It was not just relaxation that I needed. I didn't just need to rest, because my brain was still processing things, and my body was still in like almost like a stress response. So I needed to actually activate the parasympathetic nervous system and go into that rest and digest phase. Now, this isn't something that if you've got chronic long-term stress and a very, very highly dysregulated nervous system, and you have for years, that you're going to fix overnight. It does not work like that. You have to take your time. It can take like months to get into a fully safe and rested state if it's chronic. But this wasn't chronic. This was in response to something that had happened. And also like work stuff at that point was super busy as well. So there was a few factors, but it was acute rather than being something that my body was dealing with as, normal. So the things that I did that worked for me were really decompressing before bed. So by that, I mean doing some really slow stretching, doing some breath work. So just very, very simple, breathing in for 4, holding for 4, breathing out for 8. if you have your out breath longer than your in breath, then that helps to regulate your nervous system by activating the parasympathetic side of your nervous system. So having that in breath and then a slight hold and then the out breath longer than the in breath enables that to be activated. So I was doing some breath work. I was stretching, so doing some really, really nice deep stretches, especially into my back and like my pelvic region. So doing things like cat-cow if you do yoga, or you're on all fours and you stretch your back up and then you flex it. Doing child's pose. I did a technique called havening, which is basically where you almost give yourself a hug. So you put your right arm over to your left, top of your left arm, and your left arm over to the top of your right arm. And at the same time, you rub up and down your arms. It's a technique called havening. And that helps you to feel safe and secure and regulated. And I also had some magnesium glycinate before bed, which is really, really good for helping with sleep. It does give me crazy dreams, so I have to just accept that, but it's very good for before bed. I had a CBD drink. It's not legal in every country, so do be careful, depends on where you are, but it is in the UK. It's a very, very low dose. So that was all like the bedtime routine. But it wasn't just about getting prepared for bed. I'd also not been doing my steps outside because we couldn't take the dog on walks. So the majority of my outdoor steps come from taking the dog out. And whilst I was doing them on a treadmill, on like a walking pad, it's not the same. It's not the same. I mean, it's the same in terms of the actual physical output, but for me, it doesn't do anything for my nervous system. So yes, moving the energy through is good, stretching, moving. But for me, getting outside in nature, having natural light, not putting in a podcast or not going on a phone call, just walking and just taking note of my environment, taking in we're really lucky we live next door to a nature reserve. So the squirrels and the birds and the river and talking to people that were on dog walks and actually getting that, that nature reset that I hadn't had for a few days. And it's crazy how quickly things like that can completely throw you off. Like, I didn't realise how much just getting outside and walking was benefiting me until I stopped doing it for a few days. So that was really the things that I did sort of first thing in the morning and last thing at night to really just tell my body it was safe. I also actually said out loud, Molly is in his crate. He is absolutely fine. He's good. He's not going to need you. And if he needs you in the night, he'll let you know. You're safe. You are able to rest now. And I actually said that to myself because just saying those words can really reassure you that actually everything's fine. Like you can go to sleep. You are safe to sleep. We have security systems. The dog is in his crate. It's all good. And then the other things that I did throughout the day were I didn't drink. Well, no, that's a lie. I had one coffee in the morning, but I had electrolytes before I had my coffee. So I've started having, I use the brand Humantra, but there's loads out there. I think Will Powders do one. There's loads and they're all different flavours. Electrolytes, because sometimes that hydration that you need is more kind of salt-based rather than just water. So I've been having electrolytes and then having one coffee and not having any more coffee through the day then, because even if you're really tolerant of caffeine, it does spike your cortisol, your stress hormone, and it can really, really knock your nervous system out. It can dysregulate you very, very easily without you even knowing it. And especially during stressful times, a lot of people would drink coffee to get through their days. If they've got busy, long days full of meetings, it's actually one of the worst things that you can do. So instead of having coffee, I was having the electrolytes, one coffee, and then through the rest of the day, if I needed like a little pick-me-up, I'd just have a big glass of water. I had some mushroom gummies that are, meant to give you energy in the morning. Don't know whether it's just a placebo or not, but I was having those. I'm really trying to push down the level of caffeine intake. I am quite caffeine sensitive anyway, so for me, it does affect me. But even if you don't think it does, I think it's got a half-life of like 6 hours or something. So you drink a cup of coffee and 6 hours later, half of that caffeine is still in your system. And I know that everyone says this and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. But try it. The best data is you. Experiment with what works for you. Some of this might not work for you. You might do the havening or the walk in nature and think this is not actually helping me. It's making me feel on edge. But for me, these are just the things that have worked. What else did I do? That was pretty much it, to be honest. I just made really small tweaks and addressed the situation. Now, obviously, Marley getting a bit better and not needing us through the night really helped too. But you have to take those steps to like really regulate yourself again and to understand what it is that is causing the stress and the dysregulation in the first place. Now, don't get me wrong, there's definitely people in my life that will listen to this and go, it's great for you because you've got full agency over your life. I've got kids, they can kick off, they can scream. I'm not saying that you are going to have complete and utter control over yourself 24/7 by making these tweaks. However, you're going to react better and have more patience, and you're going to respond and not react if you have put in place things to regulate yourself in the first place. If your kid kicks off and your nervous system is already overloaded and you're already dysregulated and on edge, you're going to snap a lot quicker than if you're coming from a calm place. So it really does pay to check in with yourself and just think like, how am I feeling right now? Like, for instance, this morning, I've been on a walk. I have had a decaf coffee because I wanted something that tasted like coffee, and the little cafe down the road does decaf. So on the way back from my walk, I went and got a little decaf coffee. I've sat and stroked my dog and just taken, 5 minutes for myself. I've done things to make myself feel good rather than just getting up, opening my laptop, thinking, right, I need to record a podcast today. Next. And that's the thing. I am the queen of to-do lists. Anyone that knows me knows that I like to structure my weekends, productivity. That weekend that I had with Marley over Easter, I literally planned not to the nth degree, but the stuff I wanted to get done. For me, that is comforting. My nervous system loves a list. It loves structure. But also you have to have space in between the productivity to just relax and just take a breath, even if it is literally 5 minutes and a few rounds of breath work. Like, it genuinely stops you from going from one task to the other just on heightened alert and with loads of cortisol flowing through you. And then you go to bed in that state. What the fuck are you going to expect is going to happen? Your brain is just in overdrive. You have to give yourself space and time. And I am not good at that, or I haven't been good at that. I'm getting a lot better now that I'm learning about it. So I just thought that might help somebody this week. It's genuinely been a week of learning about myself and test and learn from the data, like trying things. I was trying to read the other day, for instance. That was one of the things I thought I'd do. I was like, I love reading. Let me just sit on the sofa and read. But because I'd got things that I needed to do on my to-do list that were things that couldn't really wait, my brain just would not focus. It was almost like I was doing it to tick it off the to-do list rather than because it felt good. And yeah, it wasn't really working. So whilst I will put reading back on, my menu of things that I can do, I need to do it at a time when I actually feel like I can disconnect and I have done the things that I need to do that day. Otherwise, yeah, I might as well not even bother. So there will be some things you try that probably won't work for you, but just have a menu of those little self-care things, little tasks, little things that you can do that make you feel like you are coming down from that cortisol response, that your system is safe, that you are able to relax. And I will do more of these episodes as I'm learning more and more about the nervous system. There will be a lot more to come. I'll probably listen back to this in a few months and be like, oh my God, you basic bitch, what were you talking about? But we'll learn together. And that is the beauty of this. I'm not professing to know it all, just sharing what I do know. So I hope you have a fantastic week. Please, as always, go and follow the podcast, 5-star review, share it on your socials with somebody that you think might need it, or put it on your socials to everybody. I honestly love it when I get tagged in stuff like that, because it makes me realise that you guys are actually really supporting, and it gives me a warm fuzzy feeling. So have the best week, and I will see you next time. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, make sure you are following the podcast, and don't forget to share episodes with a friend who may need it.